I've been struggling a little bit with GAMSAT study, not gonna lie. I started my own study last week amidst all of the tutoring that I'm doing, the basketball that I'm playing, general life stuff, actually trying to enjoy the holidays before uni starts. And it's difficult. I feel like we're expected to just study for the GAMSAT. Meanwhile, we're doing everything else with our lives. You're probably busy doing other stuff, or even just trying to have a restful summer period in a very stressful time. And trying to manage everything along with the GAMSAT can be really difficult. I think it comes down to a few things like motivation, planning, etc., which we're gonna look at in this video, but I thought I would make a video just kind of touching on how you might want to organize your time while studying for the GAMSAT, because I think this sort of video would help me. Even if you're sitting it for your first time or you're just looking to see how I'm planning my time, I hope this will be useful. And I'm basically going to show you kind of like how I'm studying for it, how I'm blocking out my time, and propose a couple of suggestions as to how you might want to organize your time effectively as well. A hard time if your motion is still. Let me move some things around because the lyrics is it. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kate Robson and I scored 80 in section 2 of the GAMSAT last year, and now I've been tutoring and making videos trying to help you guys to be able to do the same. So if you do enjoy this content, please feel free to give this video a like, because it really helps with the algorithm and help me get the word out there to as many people as possible. As well, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe and join the club. Before I start the video, I do just want to do a quick plug. If you don't already know, I've created an online course, which is basically my walkthrough guide through section 2 to help you get the GAMSAT mark that you need for medicine. I've kind of put in all of the knowledge that I know, the resources that I have, and created a course that will help you just step by step go through what I did to get 80 so that you're able to do it as well, quickly, simply, and easily. I'll put the link in the video description below if you'd like to find out more. So today we're going to be talking about time, because it feels like we never have enough of it. And as per usual, I thought I'd split this video up into 3 parts. I like the number 3. I think it's easy to process when I split it up into 3 parts. And these are today going to be prioritize, plan, and balance. And I hope that you're able to take something away from this that helps you figure out how you're going to plan your time for your GAMSAT study. So the first one is to prioritize. I put this one first because I think it really is ultimately like the first thing that you want to do. You want to prioritize which tasks you need to complete and where your focus is going to be. For example, I've been working on my weaknesses. I knew going into this GAMSAT that I was pretty much going to not study for section 2. Obviously, I'm doing stuff for YouTube and for tutoring and things that will help my knowledge and my experience with section 2 grow. And I've been doing the write with me's as well, which has kind of helped me practice my essay writing. But other than that, my weaknesses are section 1 and section 3. So I decided going into this GAMSAT that section 1 and section 3 were going to be my focuses. And essentially knowing that those are my priorities has allowed me to plan my study, which is what we're going to talk about in the next step. For you guys, I recommend figuring out what your priorities are going to be first before you start making a plan and how to approach it. If you haven't sat the GAMSAT before, then maybe your priorities are everything. Section 1, section 2, and section 3, and just gaining a general understanding of the GAMSAT and what it is. That's totally fine as well. That's what I did on my first sitting. I just went in hoping for the best for everything. But if you've sat it before and you're not a newcomer to this whole GAMSAT thing, then you've probably got your scores from whenever you sat it, and you can probably look at them and pretty quickly figure out where your weaknesses are. You might want to also come up with a plan, like, are you going to simply work on your weaknesses, or are you going to try and maximize one section? I've heard a lot of people doing that with section 2. If you're a science geek, you might want to do that with section 3, but generally it sounds like what people are finding helpful is to try and focus mostly on 2 sections and try and maximize their scores in that one. So for me, it'd probably make more sense to do section 2 and section 3, seeing as section 1 is a bit difficult. I've been doing fairly well in my practice questions in terms of the percentage that I'm getting right, but you really just don't know on the day. I'm hoping to kind of go for my improvements. I want to go for section 1 and section 3 because I feel like I've gained a solid understanding of section 2, and hopefully I can replicate a sort of 80-ish mark again for the March sitting. But for you might want to try and do as best as you can in section 3 and pretty good in section 2 and kind of like ignore section 1, or just try and do your best there. This sort of prioritizing will really help you direct your focus, know what your goals are, and be able to plan out your study, which is what we're going to talk about now. The second step is to plan. In this step, you're basically just going to figure out what your schedule is going to be and plan ahead based on what your priorities are. You probably have a system of planning, the way that you kind of organize your life and get stuff done. The way that I get everything done is that I use my calendar. Essentially, I use it as a to-do list to tell me what I need to do, when I need to do it, and I kind of plan out my days like that. I think I'll show it to you now because it's probably easier to show you than to tell you. So this is my calendar. I suppose it's looking fairly busy seeing as it's the holidays, and I kind of do more than is already on here, so I'm probably trying to do too much with my life, but that is literally the story of my life, trying to do too much. So you can see, I mean, today I'm filming videos and I kind of put that, I use this as my to-do list based on the stuff that I want to do or that I need to do in the day. So yeah, then I'll write the newsletter. If you're not subscribed to that, feel free to sign up on my website. And yeah, I kind of just use this as a way to block out my study. If I can avert your attention to the afternoons for the next 4 days, you'll see where my GAMSAT study lies. So I've kind of roughly put in there what I'll be doing, and then I use Notion and try and organize my questions in a different way, which I can make a different video on if you want, but I've essentially like used Jesse's Notion template, like I'm sure a lot of you have, to track my performance and the questions. I can link his video here if you find it useful. I found it really helpful. But yeah, this is how I kind of do it, just to plan out my days, just so I know like when I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and how many questions I'm going to be trying to do. You can see here that I've kind of color coordinated. I've got my section 1 and section 3 study in white and black respectively. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I've decided that I'll do section 1 study, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll do section 3 study. As you can see, I've decided that I'll do part-time 4 days a week, just because that's all that I can really manage at the moment, and that's all I really want to do. I've been struggling keeping up with this schedule, like doing that 3 to 4 hours a day in terms of study. Like sometimes I've been doing 1 or 2 hours, but as long as it's in there, I know that I have to do that study, and I know that that's what I'm doing that day. So like tomorrow I'll wake up and I know that I have to do my section 1 study tomorrow because I've put it in my calendar. Obviously you could get rid of it with a simple click of a button, but that's not the point. So if we dive into this a little bit more, essentially I've put in what I'll be doing. So tomorrow I'm going to look into read theory and try and do some of that, but I think I have some questions from section 1, the ACER booklets, that I have left over from last week that I might get into. And then for section 3, I'll do 20 practice questions from the sample booklet from the ACER booklet, check my marks, go through all the questions and stuff like that, which usually is quite time consuming. I spend like, 40 minutes doing 20 questions, and then I spend like an hour and a half or something going through the questions. So it might take less than 4 hours, but could take more. I have some questions again left over from last week that I didn't get to finish. The next day, I'm also going to do 30 questions from the ACER booklets. I'm kind of making my way through the sample questions at the moment, but then I'll move on to the practice questions that ACER sells. I'm pretty much just using the ACER resources this time and really trying to hone in on my study that way. What I've also done later on is I've put in my practice tests. So I've kind of spaced out over the course of the next few months when I'd like to do the ACER practice tests. I'm going to break down 1 and just do the questions in parts, but then practice test 2 and 3 I'm going to actually do in timed conditions. So if you want to do that, you can just like figure out when you want to do it and pop in like ACER practice test 1, and I've kind of like color coordinated GAMSAT section 1, GAMSAT section 2, GAMSAT section 3. I'll just put that there like that. And then the next weekend you might want to dedicate a day to like going over the answers and checking why you got everything wrong and figuring out where you went wrong and where you went right. And then essentially I'll just like break that down over the course of the next couple months. There's only 2 months to go, but that'll really help me direct my focus, know where I'm going to put my work, and that is essentially how I plan in a nutshell. So day by day, if we break it down, when I get to that day, like say tomorrow, I know I have to do some read theory, or the next day I know I have to do 30 section 3 questions. Let's just say like tomorrow I'm going to do some section 1 questions. Then I'll go into my Notion tracker, which as you can see here, I just use the one that Jessie created because I think it's great. Shout out to Jessie. And I'll go in here and I kind of like figured out what I want to do with each of my days. I change the schedule. I change the timeline. I can go in here and I'll go and do my questions. I'll have them up on the ACER thing and I'll record all of my answers in here. I chuck on a timer, whether it's for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. I'll bang through some questions and I'll record it all in here. And then I kind of like use this template as Jessie suggested. So here you've got like an overview of my performance tracking for section 1. I got the green the other day. I think I got like 83% on those. That was pretty good. And in here, I'll just kind of like record all of my answers and go through them step by step, trying to like note the ones where I went wrong, why I went wrong. I've also started noting the ones that I got right because I think it's also useful to figure out where I go right and how I get to the answer and stuff. So that's really useful. Again, if you want to find that Notion template, then click on this video of Jessie's. But other than that, that's essentially how I kind of plan everything from A to B, from my calendar and then into Notion. When it comes to you and figuring out what is going to work for you, I recommend that if you're struggling with motivation, just start small and really build up to it. So start with like 10 questions a day, 15 questions a day, and then build up to it as you go along. Like you don't need to do everything straight away, but try and do little chunks at a time so that you are improving a little bit by bit. For me, I think what's working so far is that if I just go to my desk and I sit down, I force myself to start, then it's much easier to get into it. And then it's much easier to do that the next day and kind of like build up gradually like that. So if you're struggling with motivation, really just try and force yourself to start and see what comes of that. But also, if it's not working and you're burnt out, you're really tired, you have other stuff going on in life, then maybe it's time to take the brakes off a little bit, give yourself the day off. Don't be afraid to have some balance, and that's what we're going to talk about now. I know we want to get tempted to work and work and work and build up that consistency and have self-discipline and everything, especially for the GAMSAT, because we're all high achievers, you know, we all have a dream and we kind of have to work hard if we want to achieve that. I think it's also part of the culture of medicine, both pre-med and it sounds like during medicine and when you're working as a doctor, to work hard. This whole like, just like diligence, discipline, hard work ethic. I think it's kind of ingrained in the medicine culture, and this definitely contributes to the competitiveness of the GAMSAT, or maybe the competitiveness of the GAMSAT contributes to the competitiveness of medicine. Who knows? Chicken or egg, right? But I think there is a lot of pressure to consistently overperform and outperform other people and smash your goals and do really well, and everyone's aiming for higher and higher numbers every year. And I think that can be a little bit overwhelming. And that's why I wanted to dedicate a part on this, because I think balance is really important. Like, yes, it is important that you get the mark that you want to in order to get into medicine, but let's not do that at the cost of our own mental health or physical health. Trying to find balance in your life with, you know, work, social life, friends, family, hobbies, health, happiness, it's a lot. And if you're dedicating all of your time to studying the GAMSAT, even though it's kind of like idealized and you hear people studying for like 16-hour days and everything, like, let's keep it realistic and not push ourselves to the edge of burnout. I guess all I want to say here is that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take days off. It's important to take days off because it will contribute to your mental clarity and your focus later on when you get back into it. Also, when we prioritize our physical health, it would hopefully translate to our mental health. So make time for exercising, make time for going for walks, make time for going for drinks with friends or coffee with friends or walks with friends. Do stuff that makes you happy and that's good for your health, because building good habits amidst your work ethic is going to be sustainable in the long run. What's not sustainable is just like working all the time and burning out, because you don't want to burn out before the GAMSAT, and there are horror stories of people burning out just before the GAMSAT, or things going wrong because of working too hard just before the GAMSAT. So create a schedule that works for you, but that's maintainable, sustainable, that is going to allow you to be happy and healthy in life otherwise, because even if it does go wrong, you can take it again. You can do it next year. Sometimes that's a blessing. I think it was a blessing for me to be able to clear my head, decide what I wanted to do, and to go in again with a fresher perspective, kind of knowing where I want to go now and where I want to place my focus. So give yourself the time to prepare properly, prepare well, and to keep yourself, your heart, and your head happy. Okay, enough preaching. I'm not a psychologist. Obviously, if you want actual advice, go to a psychologist, but I'm a big proponent for like finding balance in life, because I've been there, I've overworked, I've burnt out, and it's just not worth it in the end. You may as well make something that actually works for you, that's sustainable, rather than just like pushing yourself to extremes and having these high expectations of yourself and then crumbling down later. Okay, so all in all, plan, prioritize, find balance, do these 3 things over the course of your study. You're probably well into your study by now, but if you haven't done these yet, then maybe you're thinking of doing them. And if you're starting to look at how to plan for the GAMSAT, how to organize your time, then maybe this is a helpful video for you. If it is, I really would enjoy hearing about it in the comments. If you can leave a comment and let me know if you like this video, if it helps you, or if you have any other tips that have helped you with your GAMSAT, organizing your timing and stuff, then I'd really appreciate reading them. But all in all, I think my biggest tip is to just do what works for you. If you like a strict schedule, then do that. Like I have, block time out of your days. Or if you're a little bit more relaxed and you're able to motivate yourself more, just allocate some time in the week and trust that you'll do your study like that. The biggest thing is to just keep working hard, bit by bit, slowly making progress, and eventually that progress will accumulate, and hopefully you'll see the results that you want to in March. I hope this helped. Thanks so much for watching if you have watched up to this point, and I'll see you for the next video very soon.
So girls, move it around. If you see your main dog, get the brother a pound and just come on, just breathe, stop, for real, and give it what you got, just